We're back at the Houston Astrodome for the TNT All-American, and we're ready for the monster trucks. There is the Mad Dog out of Jefferson City, Missouri, Bob Breen at the controls. He will face the Carolina Crusher. That's driven by Gary Porter. Short little runs, but packed to the gills with action.
And this is single eliminations. If you lose, you're out of here. As Paul said, the Carolina Crusher is driven by this man, Gary Porter. He's been on the circuit a couple of years now. And his competition out of Jefferson City, Missouri in Mad Dog is Bob Breen. And this is the most challenging course for these 1,000 horsepower vehicles in an indoor arena.
Carolina Crusher in close. Take a look at the Crusher as he makes his first pass over those crushed cars. Now the Crusher and Mad Dog are even on the far turn. This is a good run. Crusher in the near line. Mad Dog had an advantage coming to the cars. The Crusher, though, comes across the line first. But Mad Dog can't get stopped, and he tags one of the grooming tractors.
And does some substantial damage to the tractor and got the attention of the operator, we might add. And I think, Paul, here we can see why Mad Dog could not get it stopped. They broke a front differential, the parts and pieces laying everywhere. But again, no injury to the man on that tractor.
We take a look at this run one more time. Look at the Crusher. Look how high they get up in the air, come down, crush even more of those cars that are lined up as an obstacle. Now here in the second view, this is as they're coming back. And you can see at this point, the Mad Dog had an advantage, but the Crusher got a better launch. Went a little further and a little faster.
Indeed, and won it by just a matter of a couple of feet. That turn down at the far end of the course, Paul, I think we'll see as the evening goes on. The driver that can best negotiate that hairpin is going to be the winner here tonight when it's all said and done.
Well, the two of them got together. Let's take a look at this replay angle, because there was Mad Dog coming over to the right while the Crusher tried to roll over to the left. They tagged the rear wheels there, and that may have been the impact that sent the Mad Dog on into the tractor.
Gary, it doesn't get much wilder than that.
It doesn't. All of us, we're going for it. You know, we're not letting up one bit. And when I come off the second set of cars, the truck bounced up on the left side, and I was worried more about keeping it from turning over than where Mad Dog was at, and we sort of collided there at the end.
Well, he got over here and caught one of the work tractors, but you fortunately were in the right lane not to have to hit anything. That's about as good as it gets in the Astrodome.
It is. That's some real good racing down here in Houston.
Good luck to you.
Okay, thank you.
Now watch this, Paul. Maybe even harder than driving one of these trucks is getting into it.
You got to climb way up there. You remember one year we got a ladder so that I could interview some of the folks?
All right, next up is one of the most popular monster trucks of them all. It is Clydesdale. But first, let's go back down to Pat Patterson and find out what happened to Mad Dog.
You guys got yourself in a real dogfight out there.
Yeah, I drove Gary 3 times in a row. And the last time I thought I had him beat, I beat myself down in the turn. And this time I was determined to beat him. And I knew I had him when I come off the hump out there. And I couldn't tell where he was coming from. Then I seen him out of the corner of my eye coming at me. So I started slowing mine down, and when he bumped me, I don't know whether they broke my steering line off or what, and then they killed my radio, and I couldn't steer mine. So then I did this.
You went over here and got in a tangle with a regular old international case tractor.
That's just a case of one case in another, I guess.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Well, at least he still has a good sense of humor. And look at the front of that thing. Boy, oh boy, you don't want to tangle with the monster trucks.
And that little tractor was borrowed from a local dealer as a courtesy, and they promised to return it all shined up and full of gas. I don't want to be the one that has to explain that. All right, in our next pair, it is David Morris, a smiling young guy in the Equalizer. Does this for a living.
And there's Bennett Clark on Clydesdale from Canton, Georgia. We've seen him quite a bit in the center of the action in the tractor pull. The Chevrolet of Clydesdale. That will be on the far side, facing the Equalizer here in the near lane.
Well, Bennett Clark, the far lane, full of confidence, gave our cameraman the thumbs up sign, and it's another beautiful start and great race. Remember, these are four-wheel steering vehicles. How you use the rear wheel steer determines how well you get through that corner, and again, they both do it perfectly.
Well, Bennett Clark is a master, though, though. He makes up a little distance coming around the corner, but still it is Equalizer that gets to the line first, beating the Clydesdale.
Oh, this is the most competitive monster truck action we have ever seen here in the Astrodome. Let's take a look at the start. It was Equalizer in the near lane with an early advantage, and that was later to pay big dividends.
Well, the Clydesdale wasted an awful lot of time in the air on the first jump. That gave the Equalizer an opportunity to get ahead.
Exactly. When you're up in the air, you don't have any driving wheels on the ground. The crowd loves it, the photographers love it, but it's not good competition sense. And here's where that starting line advantage and the low flying paid off for Equalizer.
Well, David Morris, what do you think? That was just about as close a matchup as you can get.
Yeah, Clydesdale, he's a good, smooth runner, and I knew I'd have to try to beat him on this first part of the track because I still hadn't got this rear steering deal figured out yet. Had a little trouble with it down there coming over the hill. Once I got straight, though, I had enough power that I could pass him in the air.
Good run.
Thanks.
So David Morris, with the Equalizer, moves ahead in this single elimination competition of the monster trucks. This isn't a monster truck, it's another 4x4 puller, as they're ready over on those lanes once again. And we'll take a look at the pullers.
The philosophy of running a four-wheel drive vehicle is... There are few racing vehicles on this planet more unique than monster trucks. I'm Steve Evans, along with Paul Page and Pat Patterson in the Houston Astrodome for the TNT All-American. And here is the champion from last year, Paul, Awesome Kong.
Well, as a matter of fact, Steve, we've got a couple of champions out of last year, because in the near lane, that will be Nightlife, also a winner. This should prove to be one terrific race.
All right, here you see the man driving the Awesome Kong, and it is truly one of the most powerful, risk-taking operations in monster truck racing. This is Dave Weichserek, the Nightlife 2 driver, a little more conservative, but he always gets the job done. Now, Andy Brass drives the Bigfoot truck, the best-known name in all of monster truck racing. And earlier, in round number 1, watch Bigfoot on the far side of your screen, and you'll see why you don't see him in round number 2.
Bigfoot was lined up and ready to go. Now, the rules say that you have to stay in your lane. You can see that Bigfoot got a great start. Was coming around the corner. Now, keep an eye on the Bigfoot. Took a pretty wide swing against Nightlife 2. And then on this jump, whoa, got way out of his lane and then slammed that right front into the ground and flatted it. But the minute he went out of his lane, he was disqualified.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what happened is Andy Brass got a little bit behind and thought, uh-oh, I got to do something quick, and just didn't get a good approach at the final car jump.
Well, as a result of that, it's Awesome Kong over on the far side, Nightlife 2 in the near lane. Something is squirting out there at the back end of Awesome Kong, Steve.
Well, it might be hydraulic fluid. The only effect would be if it all was to bleed out, it might not have the rear wheel steering that he'd like to have, and that is really important negotiating that hairpin.
Yeah, it might be just a little overpressure. It might be a leak. Who knows? If we keep an eye on Awesome Kong, Nightlife 2 here in the near lane. Awesome Kong getting a nice start, and now fluid's coming out down there at the differential. Awesome Kong has something definitely wrong, and he rolls to a stop as Nightlife 2 heads down to the finish. Nightlife 2 will win this one as something goes wrong with the Awesome Kong.
That was just a beautiful drive by Nightlife 2. And Awesome Kong, you see all the smoke coming out there. Whatever that was spraying out got in touch with the exhaust system or some other hot part on that truck. And the driver is out having a look.
I wonder if that wasn't some sort of hydraulic line or something. At first we saw it up in the back there, and then you could see, now watch here, down at the differential in the back. And there it is, something squirting out there as well. Whatever it is, it certainly led to the demise of the Awesome Kong.
The second defending champion to fall in competition. Pat?
Well, you wanted this kind of a situation, and you got it exactly like you wanted it tonight.
It's going pretty good. I hope to get in the finals and win it overall. I didn't know what Kong was doing. He's usually a hard runner, and he must have tore up something on that curve. I seen I had him a little bit, so I just went for it again.
You sure seem consistent tonight, especially down there making that all-important turn coming back up to the finish line.
Well, a lot of guys aren't used to using their rear steering, and I never block mine off. I use it all the time, and I think that's worked for an advantage for me, is just using it all the time. I'm familiar with it.
All right, can you win this thing tonight?
You bet.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Well, the rear steer can certainly get you around that final turn a lot quicker. but it also takes a very tender hand. You can see the rear steering working here on the King Crunch as he comes to the line.
Well, Dave said a lot of guys don't use it all the time. That's because in big arenas outdoors, so most of the courses are pretty straight. They don't really need it. But that's a sound thinking on his part. Always know where that lever is and exactly what it's going to do for you or against you.
All right, in this matchup, you're going to see the King Crunch. You just saw a good close view of it. And in the near lane, I always love to see this machine, the Gravedigger.
Even more than the machine, I love to see the way Dennis Anderson drives. It's almost like he's got his eyes closed sometimes. It's just in total abandon. Scott Stevens of King Crunch knows that and will be looking at his peripheral vision to make sure Gravedigger doesn't bounce in his lane. I mean, he really stays with the Gravedigger driver, Dennis Anderson.
King Crunch, Texan Scott Stevens at the wheel, gets a little better start. Here comes the Gravedigger, and the Gravedigger up out of his lane. That's a disqualification right there. That's too bad. What a pretty machine.
Well, I hope I didn't jinx him, Paul. I didn't mean for that to happen. Gravedigger is one incredible machine to watch, and we'll miss seeing him in future competition. But I'll tell you what, that is a disqualification for sure. We don't even have to check with T&T on that.
No, the red flags were flying, but nice of the Gravedigger. Gave it a little run anyway, something for the fans.
Oh, absolutely. These guys are entertainers as well as competitors. And Paul, it's at times like this, the driver wishes he had some flaps on the thing. He knows that he's tilting off to the left-hand side if he could only right it in air, but it's not to be. Body English doesn't do much in a monster truck. He tried to compensate immediately by turning right, but the truck has too much weight and too much momentum, and Gravedigger is out for the evening. Okay, Scott Stevens certainly isn't. Let's go to he and Pat.
Well, Scott, that's what you wanted. A perfect move down at the bottom of the track, a good, smooth start, and you had Gravedigger covered all the way.
Yeah, you know, we've got a major problem with our steering. It's not working too good. And, you know, we just kind of babied it down that front straightaway, got through that curve, and, you know, we looked pretty sad coming back down that other straightaway. We got the win, and that's what we got. You know, Digger's in third place, and we're in second in the points, and, you know, that puts us 2 more points ahead of him. That's what we needed in Houston.
Well, you're having yourself a spectacular night here in the Astrodome. Great run.
Yeah, if we don't put it on its top with the steering like it is, we may end up on our top. It's not working. Thank you.
Well, he's happy about his victory in the King Crunch, and of course, with the completion now of round number 2, that will send King Crunch into the semifinal round. And there, he will face Nightlife 2. And in the other pairing of the semifinal, it will be the Carolina Crusher versus the Equalizer. The mini rods are coming ready in the Houston Astrodome for the semifinals of the monster trucks. The Equalizer sits over in the far lane. The Carolina Crusher here on the near side. This should be a really terrific matchup.
That's right. In round number 2, we saw earlier both drivers, both trucks perform flawlessly.
Gary Porter in the Carolina Crusher. It'll be David Morris in the Equalizer. The revs begin to come up now as the Equalizer finds the starting position that he wants, rolls back, and then forward.
As the competition becomes more equal, the start becomes more important. We have seen 2 races so far tonight where the start paid off at the finish with a victory. Carolina Crusher dropping it down in gear. They use automatic transmissions in these trucks. At one time, they were fairly simple to drive. You kind of took off this straight line and crushed some cars, and the promoter gave you some money, and you went to the next place. You got to be a real race truck driver now to get the job done.
Equalizer got a great start there. The Crusher drifted out toward the line, but he got it under control. The rear wheel steer, so important on this tight course here at the Astrodome. And the Crusher now begins to pull away. Something went wrong, I think, on the Equalizer. The Crusher takes the win and goes to the final.
Well, the Equalizer, Paul, has been disqualified at the turn for crossing the center line. So the win goes to the Carolina Crusher.
Let's take a look at that again. The Equalizer up in the air with a nice start, a nice hole shot, came down a little askew. Boy, he took a whale of a bounce there. Now they're coming to the turn at the far end. And take a look at the equalizer on the left-hand side of your screen as he comes over, and yep, you bet you're right, Steve. He got across that line, and when you do that, the game is over. The Carolina Crusher's the winner. Now here, though, take a look at the Carolina Crusher, because as he comes to the final jump, way up in the air, of course, at this point, he doesn't know that the equalizer is already disqualified.
But that is a textbook leap to the finish line, and he lands flat. Not nose down, not tail down, and that's exactly what it takes to have a good competitive run. And Gary Porter just gave everybody a driving lesson there.
Well, Gary, it gets better, and it gets better, and it gets better, and you're going to the finals here at the Astrodome.
It is. I've been chasing Equalizer all last year. He beat me in the points, and I'm going for him this year. I'm going to try to win the points championship, put him away.
Good smooth start. Seemed like the truck stayed right in place over the cars. A great hit there coming back to the finish line. Just a good, consistent run.
It seems to be, the truck seems to be cornering good and everything. Coming off the second set of cars, I'm bouncing a little bit, but the race is over, so who cares?
Now, who will he face? Will it be the Nightlife 2, Dave Resort, or King Crunch, driven by Scott Stevens?
Boy, is that a gorgeous color on Nightlife 2, Paul? Ooh, a candy apple something.
I'll tell you what, we have two beautiful machines coming up here. These are just gorgeous. I love the Crunch. Now, as you can imagine, you don't drive these things to and from the races. You got to put them in a trailer, but they don't necessarily fit.
The only thing harder than getting a monster truck like King Crunch around a tight circuit like the one on the Astrodome floor is getting King Crunch from the Astrodome to Salt Lake City, Utah, its next stop on the tour. Now understand that with these big wheels and tires, King Crunch doesn't fit in that trailer. So it takes about a half a dozen guys when the show is over to remove 48 lug nuts using this great big 4-ton jack. Then when they load it, it really looks silly because it's got the little bitty trailer rubber on it. It's not a pretty picture. Kind of ruins the whole illusion of what a monster truck should look like. Now, what happens to the big wheels and tires? They come in that door that I just came in and obviously are jammed right against the wall here. Witness the big rubber circles. All in all, there's a lot of work involved in moving this group around.
Well, right now, they look exactly like they should. There is the King Crunch. This is the second fight in the semifinal round to determine who will come up against the Crusher.
And anybody who thinks they run these engines easy just saw how lean they can get by the time they reach the semifinals. They're making an awful lot of horsepower, and the drivers, Paul, have to be physically fit. You'll notice none of these guys is anything but lean and hard because they take a tremendous beating inside these things.
And just because the motor isn't visible there, don't think that they aren't making a lot of horsepower. It takes a lot to kick these machines up in the air. We've got a dead even start.
Absolutely. No advantage coming into the turn. It's a beautiful turn, but it is Nightlife 2 that got straightened out quicker, and then suddenly had some steering problem, and King Crunch, if he can stay on the course, will win it. Yes, King Crunch will go to the final,
where the Crunch will face the Carolina Crusher. I'm not sure what happened there. It really looked like Nightlife 2 had the better run going into the corner. Let's take a look at the replay going into that turn. Nightlife 2 is over on the left of your screen. He turned in early, had a little bit of a lead here. He was really using the rear wheel steer, got the back end around nicely, but you can see he had the front end pointed wrong when he got back on the power. That turned him toward the center line, and he had to get off of the throttle.
Paul, it is such an advantage to get turned around first. And watch the truck in the far lane, Nightlife 2. He has that advantage, but when he stabs the throttle to go for it, the engine backfires, and he was done.
Replay that run for me. You look like you came off the line good. Tell me what happened from there on.
Yeah, you know, since we've been having so much steering troubles, I want to beat him to the first turn and make him make the mistake this time. And he did exactly what we wanted. We got to the first turn real good, got through the turn. It was basically pretty well the way I wanted it. I messed up a little bit, but Dave did a little worse.
All right, you're a veteran, but when you go to the finals in a place like the Astrodome, you still get a little butterflies.
You know, it's just because we have so much trouble here every year, but we're ready for the final, and we're really going to turn it hard in the final.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, so he's worried, Scott Stevens, a little bit about his past performances here at the Astrodome. They've not been what he would have wanted. Well, King Crunch completes that victory in the semifinals, and it sets the stage for his combat against the Carolina Crusher. The Monster Truck Finals will be coming up in a little bit here at the TNT All-American. Welcome back to the Houston Astrodome. I'm Paul Page with Steve Evans. We're here for the final round, and the monster trucks now at the TNT All-American. The Carolina Crusher in the near lane. Over on the far side is King Crunch. Scott Stevens versus Gary Porter.
And from what we've seen in early eliminations, Paul, I can't pick a favorite here. Both these guys, Scott Stevens and Gary Porter, have driven beautifully, used their head, used that rear wheel steering to make excellent hairpin turns. Maybe who leaves first could be the difference here.
Well, the Crunch has decided to take a position a little bit back from the starting line, while the Crusher has moved up a little bit forward. They are both ready. They're both watching for the start. Now the Crunch comes forward, stages into position, and we are ready to go.
As badly abused as this track has become during the evening, it's going to take good sense of the drivers to get the right lift, the right launch off the jump. A beautiful start by both drivers.
Yeah, but the Crusher almost goes over on the nose at the first jump, but it sure gave him the impetus to get around to that corner. But look at here, as the Crunch picks up the lead, the Crusher with one big jump trying to catch him. But the Crunch comes across the line first. King Crunch with the victory here in the Houston Astrodome. Good run.
And an all-out run by both drivers. Let's take a look at the replay. Even though the Crusher here landed on all four, it got tipped up on its nose. Gary Porter had to be scared to death at that point, and we thought maybe he was completely out of it, but that was not to be. Gary Porter stayed right with it. Another beautiful jump coming back. Again, landing a bit on the nose, but he does a fine job of driving. Now it wants to rear up and go over backwards. This man really had his hands full, Gary Porter. He did everything he could to beat the blue truck on the right side, if you're Frank, driven by Scott Stevens. And here we can see the margin of victory for Stevens. He was across the line as his competitor was still flying through the air.
Yeah, but Steve, I'm not so sure of the result. Look at this. The officials having some kind of conversation with Scott Stevens.
The gist of that conversation, Paul, seems to be that Stevens is being disqualified. Something about cutting the corner.
Well, we can take a look at the corner here on this replay. Scott Stevens on the left turned early, virtually eliminated the jump at the far end, and they've decided as a result of that he's disqualified. Pat?
Well, gentlemen, it's a tough break. Anytime you come to the Astrodome, you have as many good runs as Scott Stevens has had in here tonight, only to have it taken away from you. There's supposed to be some white lines down there, and you thought you were where you were supposed to be.
Yeah, you know, the drivers' meeting, they didn't make no point to say that all four tires had to go over the hill. You know, they said we were racing between white lines. That's what we did. You know, it's just the rule, and, you know, evidently we did wrong tonight.
Well, it's a tough break for you, but the fans love the show that you and the Crusher put on in the finals.
Yeah, you know, we just tried, and, you know, we were pushing the corner, and it just didn't work. Thank you.
So with Scott Stevens' disqualification, Gary Porter in the Carolina Crusher becomes the new winner.
As luck will have it, when you do everything right, it still pays off. You really had a tough time with that run, but King Crunch disqualified, and you're the winner in the Dome tonight.
It was. I don't like to win like that, but, you know, rules are rules, and I went down further than he did to make the turn, and, you know, so all four tires would come over the hill, and he cut it a little short. You know, and this time it cost him the race.
Winning in the Astrodome means a lot to you, I know. You come down here looking for this kind of a night.
It is. This is the year's biggest event right here, and this is what I look forward to every year, coming out here to the Astrodome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, as tight as the points chase is among the monster truck drivers, Gary Porter will take it any way he can get it. We salute all of our winners here in the Dome, the 4x4 truck champion, Glenn Davis, Mini Rods, Glenn Gunther, and of course, monster trucks, Gary Porter. For Paul Page and Pat Patterson, I'm Steve Evans saying so long from the TNT All-American in the Houston Astrodome. We hope you enjoyed the show.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish. Supervising producer, John B. Mullen. Produced and directed by Mark Kuchin. A promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by this special offer from Diamond P.
For 7 seasons, Diamond P Sports' award-winning American Sports Cavalcade series on TNN has brought you a wider variety of motorsports than any other, and with more cameras than you normally see. And it's because of the talented people who man these viewfinders Diamond P has been able to produce an exciting new video entitled And They Walked Away. Incredible crashes from stock car racing, motocross, IMSA and SEC road racing, NHRA drag racing, Eastern modifieds, even swamp buggies, and more. To get your copy of And They Walked Away, send $24.95 plus $3.50 shipping and handling to the address on your screen. Or better yet, call 1-800-453-9300. Visa and MasterCard accepted, no CODs. Call now, 1-800-453-9300.
The American Sports Cavalcade is a presentation of Diamond P Sports.